But Leta has been winning these engagements because of the fact that he's going along the edge. I mean, when you've got your firing line, you've got a line of tanks. Then if someone goes directly, perpendicular into your line of tanks, then all the tanks are able to focus their firepower, and it's just so powerful. But on the other hand, um, that tank popped. But on the other hand, at the same time, if you've got them in a line, if someone comes from, I guess from a direction parallel to the line that you're making, in other words, they're coming at the edge of your line instead of the flat side of your line, then it's just not effective at all. And we saw Lita doing exactly that. He'd come in, and because his tanks were attacking from the kind of the opposite angle, Lita's 4 or 5 tanks were able to concentrate on one tank outside of the range of the other tanks in line. So, I mean, that's the kind of tactics I think that are going to be really, really useful on this. I mean, that have been really useful on this map, and that's what Lita's been doing to win these engagements here. And if he keeps that up, he's definitely going to be able to win this game. Just by superior strategy. It looks like C, however, has kind of gotten smart to this, so he's kind of moving his troops around the sides and trying to do the same thing. And I really love this map for TVT because of this, because it's so you have to focus on your maneuvering so much. And it looks like C actually setting up a base between Lita and his bases, so that's a little bit gutsy there. He really has to be confident, although actually the way his firing line is set up, that expansion is actually even more protected than the one at the 9 o'clock position, so that actually makes a little bit of sense. Now again, gas is really important in turn versus turn. Uh-oh, C's setting up to move out here. He's going to try and break this kind of pseudo-contain, sending in SCVs first to take the hits. SCVs are taking the hits, but he needs to get his other forces in position at the same time, and they move in, and then they're not quite in good enough range. And because Lita had the siege mode on first, he actually got the first hits off. And actually, the last couple SCVs did do a significant amount of damage, more than I thought. But Lita still taking that engagement very soundly. Yeah, he moved in, but his tanks weren't in quite the best position. If he'd gone in, on the side of Lita's position, then there wouldn't have been much Lita could have done. But instead, he went straight into the kind of the flat side of Lita's firing line, and that's often necessary in other maps. But on this map, he could have easily gone around the side a little bit, and I think been able to do a little bit more damage. But what's gone is done. But now C has set up kind of a long firing line here across the middle. Oh man, I wish I remember what game it was that I was thinking of. Some TVT from the last Star Leaks that we were watching. I think it was Nada versus someone, or I don't remember. But we ended up with this huge line of tanks, literally cutting the whole map in half, just zigzagging through the center of the map, all the way from the bottom right corner to the top left corner, just tank lines standing off. It was awesome. We're ended up with kind of something like that getting set up here, where neither player really wants to commit all their troops to one side. We're getting to enough troops where a counterattack would be a possibility if they did try and take their whole army around the side. But also, they've managed to cleave the middle mostly in half. Not quite. There's still the ability to flank at this point, I think. But before too long, if they get their firing line set up a little bit longer across the middle expanse, then it'll be too difficult to do the flanking that I was trying to explain earlier. And SCV fight. One SCV trying to kill the other, and the other trying to get that turret down to burning, I guess. Even though the other SCV can just repair it now. But what was I saying before? Oh yeah, so it's going to be more difficult to flank. And that's really when the firing lines are really going to mean a lot more. Wow, C just now getting ComSat. That's interesting. I didn't realize that he didn't have it before, but I guess he didn't. And just now getting some ComSats. The ComSats are really actually kind of important, even when there's not cloaked raids or anything like that. They're really important for just kind of excuse me, they're important for keeping track of where your opponent's army is, getting sight so that your tanks can fire longer, that kind of thing. Just generally, it's nice to have comsats around it, and especially in late game TVT, you see players, they've got 3 or 4 comsat stations, sometimes 5 comsat stations from empty bases, and C really trying to push in here with a large force, sending in the SCVs, but again, his tank's not quite in the best position. It's hard to tell if they're within range or not. It looks like they actually were within range a little bit, but Leta just having the stronger position there, and C not able to focus his tank fire quite as well, losing several tanks there. And look at this, Leta is setting up turrets all around his base just to prevent any kind of drop from going down here. Since the big, 3 or 4, 5 dropships in your base can do a lot of damage. And here is one dropship. It's just going to deliver some tanks to the battlefield, though. And Leta actually coming in here from the right, trying to go in for a flank, moving in, and Leta far more successful at that tactic than C is. Again, see, it's Leta setting up where all of his tanks were able to focus on one of C's tanks, but C's other tanks were not within range to focus on his own tanks. So basically, Leta had superior firepower in the battle, and Leta's been consistently doing that to make sure that he has more firepower in every battle. Leta now expanding to the bottom left spawn point, and really that could be the kicker, because C is pretty limited. C cannot really take 9 o'clock. Nice little SCV bombs going on there while he moves in with his tanks. This is a good mover by C, but I think he's also within range of the forces on the right. Leta coming in with reinforcements as well. Oh man, just too many forces for Leta. Leta has been winning every engagement, and because of that, he's had more troops on the ground. Because of that, he's been able to win more engagements. But again, C has just not been a very good tactician in this game either. He's been just kind of throwing troops at superior defensive positions. He's been throwing his troops at superiorly defended positions and superior forces, and just getting them owned. And it's been costing him lots of battles, and he's been consistently trying to move out and push out and break this kind of a containment that Leta has set up across the middle of the map, and it just hasn't worked at all. And so now C can't really take another base, and Leta can, and that's so Leta's going to have 4 bases to C's 3, and that's really going to be all she wrote in the long term, especially since Leta has more forces right now anyway, and he's getting some dropships out, so he could theoretically load up a little squad of dropships and do a drop in C's base, which would be really devastating at this point. I don't know if C has a lot of turrets in his base or anything like that. Really, at this point, C, I think, if I was him, I would be taking that mineral only behind my base, and just try and get some vultures out. Just something to occupy the battlefield, get a little bit more presence on the battlefield, something to send in first to take tank hits and that sort of thing, because he's behind and he has some catching up to do, basically. So when you're behind, you kind of do what you need to do. Yes, it's better to take gas expansions, so you can get the gas, you can get more Goliaths and tanks instead of just vultures, but if you can't get that expansion, you gotta do something. So here he is with dropships. It looks like he's going to try it for a drop here. Leta has a ridiculous amount of turrets on his perimeter. No, he's not going to do a drop on Leta's base. He's just going to move some troops over to his new base for defense, I guess, in case Leta decides to drop on that. But I think Leta, look at this, Leta's setting up another base in the natural expansion of the bottom left spawn. And C is just falling hugely behind. In a few minutes here, C trying to move in a little bit, trying to take out some of those turrets on the ridge just by tanking the ridge, but Leta is all over it, moves his dropships over, drops off the tanks. C GG's. I was talking about him GGing early, but I think we both knew that his loss was inevitable. He was just so far behind, he wasn't able to dent Leta's defensive armor at all, and Leta takes a very resounding victory, 2-0 over C Shield. Leta will be advancing into the OSL, and he's been doing really well in Pro League, so I'm really excited to see what he can do in the individual leagues. Hopefully he can get a little bit of personal fame out of all the success that he's been bringing to OGN. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that series, and yeah, thank you very much for listening, and take care, and Happy New Year.